Imagine walking into a hotel you built from the ground up, only to have your own manager scream, "Get out of my hotel." That's exactly what happened to Janelle Carter, a powerhouse CEO who turned that shocking moment into the ultimate comeback. Stay tuned, because in the next few minutes you'll witness how she flipped humiliation into triumph, and why 5 minutes was all it took to change everything. "Get out of my hotel." The shout cracked through the grand marble lobby like a thunderclap. Conversations died mid-sentence. Coffee cups paused halfway to lips. The sound bounced off the high glass ceiling and seemed to shake the crystal chandelier overhead. Janelle Carter stopped cold, one stiletto heel clicking sharply against the polished floor. For a heartbeat, the only movement came from the swirl of her cream blazer as she turned toward the voice. Her heart thudded once, hard, but her face remained perfectly composed. The man who had shouted was striding toward her, red-faced and tight-jawed, a finger already stabbing the air like a weapon. Peter Graham. Her own hotel manager. The very person she had hired 2 years ago after an interview where he had practically begged for the chance to grow with the company. "Excuse me?" Janelle's voice sliced through the sudden silence, calm, crisp, and just sharp enough to draw every pair of eyes in the lobby. "You heard me," Peter barked, his voice carrying past the marble columns and potted palms. "This is a private property. You don't belong here." A ripple of whispers rolled across the crowd of guests checking in for the afternoon. A young couple clutching matching suitcases exchanged stunned glances. A bellhop froze mid-step, the gold trim of his uniform catching the light as he looked from Peter to Janelle and back again. Janelle's pulse beat steadily in her ears, but she refused to give him the satisfaction of a reaction. Instead, she inhaled the cool, jasmine-scented air of the lobby she had designed herself. Every inch of this space carried her vision, from the Italian marble beneath her heels to the sapphire blue art glass behind the reception desk. "He really thinks he can throw me out of my own hotel?" Peter closed the distance between them, his polished shoes squeaking faintly on the marble. "Security is on its way," he announced loudly, as if performing for the gathering crowd. "You need to leave before we have you escorted out." Phones lifted higher. Guests and staff alike began filming, some pretending to check messages while slyly angling their cameras. A child pointed from behind his mother's legs, whispering, "What's happening, Mom?" Janelle kept her gaze locked on Peter, her expression unreadable. She noticed the slight tremor in his hand as he pointed, a detail that told her everything. He was trying to look powerful, but he was nervous. "I don't think you understand who you're speaking to," she said finally, her tone even but carrying across the lobby like a quiet drumbeat. Peter's jaw flexed. "I understand perfectly. You're trespassing. And I will not have random people walking in," and he stopped himself, perhaps realizing how absurd he sounded, but he doubled down anyway. "Leave now." Gasps flickered through the audience. A concierge took an uneasy step forward, then back again. Janelle let the silence stretch. She could feel the weight of every eye on her, the travelers rolling their suitcases, the business guests with their laptops, even the doorman peering in from the revolving entrance. The hotel was alive with murmurs, the kind of electric tension that precedes a storm. Finally she spoke, her voice low but carrying unmistakable authority. "Peter," she said, tilting her head just slightly, "I suggest you lower your finger." For an instant, time seemed to pause. The chandelier lights glittered above like frozen stars. Somewhere near the reception desk, a phone camera gave a quiet click. Janelle adjusted her blazer and took a single deliberate step forward. The sound of her heel striking marble echoed like a gavel. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The room already belonged to her, whether Peter knew it yet or not. Janelle's mind worked like a finely tuned engine, even as the stares of guests and staff pressed in around her. She'd hired Peter Graham precisely because of his sharp organizational skills. Back then, he'd been almost disarmingly polite, an ambitious mid-level hotel manager who'd talked endlessly about team spirit and shared vision. So how did this man, someone she'd trusted with a key to her empire, suddenly decide he could shove her out of the very business she built? The answer arrived in flashes of conversation she'd overheard while stepping from her car earlier that afternoon, rumors of a big shake-up, whispers about Janelle being out of the picture. It hadn't made sense at the time. Now it did. Peter wasn't improvising. He was executing a plan. While Janelle had been in Singapore finalizing a multimillion-dollar partnership for Sapphire Crown's next property, she deliberately skipped a routine regional board meeting. It wasn't supposed to be a critical session, just financial updates and staffing reviews. But Peter seized the gap like a shark sensing blood in the water. He'd circulated a memo claiming significant ownership restructuring was underway and that outside investors, never named, of course, had effectively bought controlling shares. The language was slippery: pending documentation, transition of power, interim authority. To nervous junior managers, it sounded official enough. One by one, staff began treating Peter as if he were the new top authority. He tightened schedules, ordered audits, and even told the front desk that the former CEO might show up to cause confusion and should be reported if spotted. By the time Janelle walked through the revolving glass doors, Peter had been playing emperor for days. "You can't just walk in here like you own the place," he said now, voice ringing off the marble columns. Janelle's eyes narrowed. "I do own the place, Peter. Every square foot, every chandelier bulb, every payroll check still has my signature on it." A low murmur swept the lobby. Someone near the concierge desk whispered, "She's the owner?" Another replied, "That's not what he told us." Peter's jaw tightened, but he pressed forward. "Not anymore. Things have changed. We run things now. So leave before security escorts you out." Behind him, two security guards shifted awkwardly. Their eyes flicked between Janelle and Peter, uncertain whose command carried weight. Janelle kept her breathing slow. Outrage would only feed his performance. Instead, she let silence stretch until it felt like a drawn bowstring. Then, with deliberate calm, she said, "Peter, I've reviewed every share transaction this quarter. Nothing has changed. And you know it." His face twitched, just enough for her to catch. "You're bluffing," he shot back, though his voice cracked ever so slightly. "The staff reports to me now. If you don't leave, you'll be trespassing." Janelle took a single step closer, her heels clicking like a judge's gavel. "The staff reports to the corporation. I am the corporation." Phones tilted higher as guests captured the moment. The hotel's social media was about to explode. Deep inside, Janelle felt not anger but clarity. Peter's little coup wasn't only about ambition. It was about humiliation, an attempt to rewrite her story in front of her own employees and customers. But Janelle Carter hadn't built a global luxury brand by folding under pressure. She locked eyes with him and allowed a small, cool smile to form. "Peter," she said, each word precise as a chess move, "if you truly believe I don't own this hotel, then you won't mind what happens next." A ripple of uncertainty crossed the crowd. The balance of power was already shifting, and Peter was the only one who didn't realize how quickly his moment of glory was slipping away. The lobby felt charged, as if a summer thunderstorm were about to crack open the sky. Phones hovered like tiny satellites, capturing every heartbeat of the confrontation. Janelle Carter stood tall in the middle of it all, a pillar of calm and cream and gold, her dark eyes steady on the man who had dared to challenge her authority. Peter Graham folded his arms, his earlier bravado beginning to fray. He glanced toward the security desk where two guards lingered, waiting for instructions they weren't sure they should follow. Their hesitation only made the tension heavier. Janelle didn't rush. She understood power wasn't always about the loudest voice, it was about control. With a graceful motion, she unlocked her phone. The quiet tap-tap of her fingers seemed louder than Peter's shouting had been. The crowd leaned in. Peter barked, "What are you doing? Calling for backup?" "This is pointless." "Not backup," Janelle replied, her tone smooth as polished marble. "Documentation." She opened a secure corporate app, a digital vault only she and the board of directors could access, and pressed a single button labeled Broadcast. Her attorney's carefully crafted message, already drafted for emergencies, went straight to every employee inbox, from the front desk to the corporate office. Within seconds, a crisp chime echoed across the lobby. A young concierge's tablet lit up. Then another employee's phone vibrated. Notifications popped like tiny fireworks. Peter's smartwatch buzzed. He hesitated, then raised it to his face. As his eyes scanned the screen, the color drained from his cheeks. The message was brief and devastating. Official notice from the office of the CEO. Sapphire Crown Hotel remains under the sole ownership of Janelle Carter. Any individual participating in or enabling unauthorized management actions is subject to immediate termination. Legal counsel is on site. Gasps rippled through the room. Guests murmured. A bellhop whispered, "She really is the owner." Peter's lips tightened into a thin, bloodless line. This doesn't prove anything," he stammered, but his voice had lost the steel it carried earlier. Janelle lowered her phone and met his eyes. "It proves everything." For a long, charged moment, no one moved. The only sounds were the hum of the lobby fountain and the faint ping of incoming emails confirming the truth. Even the chandelier seemed to hold its breath. A hotel clerk stepped forward timidly. "Mr. Graham, is this real?" Peter shot him a glare, but the question had already broken his illusion. Staff members looked from their screens to their manager, then back to Janelle. The room's energy shifted like a tide pulling away from shore. Janelle took a step closer, her heels clicking like a metronome of authority. "Peter," she said softly, "you have 5 minutes to reconsider every decision you've made today." The words were not shouted, they didn't need to be. They carried the finality of a gavel strike. Peter opened his mouth, closed it again, and looked toward the doors as if calculating an escape. A single bead of sweat traced down his temple. 5 minutes, Janelle repeated, her voice calm, almost gentle. "Then I decide who stays and who goes." The crowd parted as she walked to the center of the lobby, phone still in hand, her presence commanding the space she had created. The sapphire blue glass behind the reception desk caught the light and shimmered like a crown. For the first time that day, Peter looked small, like a man who had just realized the empire he tried to steal was never his to begin with. The air in the Sapphire Crown lobby felt electric, as if every molecule waited for Janelle's next breath. She had given Peter Graham, her own employee turned pretender, exactly 5 minutes. 5 minutes to rethink every reckless move. A massive Art Deco clock hung above the reception desk. Its brass second hand began its slow, merciless sweep. Tick, tick. Each sound landed like a drumbeat of inevitability. Minute 1. Janelle stood perfectly still, phone in hand, while the crowd's murmurs swelled into a low buzz. 2 security guards exchanged nervous glances. They had entered expecting to remove a trespasser, not to witness a corporate showdown. Guests leaned over balcony railings on the second floor to film the unfolding drama. Peter's face was a study in panic disguised as bravado. He pulled his shoulders back, but his eyes darted from staff phones flashing with her broadcast message to the towering clock above them. "You think a text changes anything?" he barked. "I'm the manager here." "My word." Janelle's calm voice cut through him like a blade. "Your word means nothing without my signature, Peter. The shareholders know it. The board knows it. And now everyone here knows it." The crowd gave a collective gasp, the sound echoing off the marble walls. Minute 2. Janelle pressed a single button on her phone. Her attorney's voice came alive on speaker. "Ms. Carter, per your instructions, the temporary suspension of regional management is filed and notarized. Effective immediately, all senior staff are relieved of duty pending investigation." The words rolled through the lobby like a thunderclap. Several employees froze mid-step, their eyes wide. A housekeeping supervisor quietly slipped her name badge into her pocket and backed away toward the service elevator. Peter's mouth opened but no sound emerged. His bluff was crumbling, and everyone could see it. Minute 3. Private security, Janelle's personal team, not the hotel's, arrived in crisp black suits. They didn't speak, but their presence spoke volumes. Guests whispered excitedly, a few applauding under their breath as if watching a live courtroom drama. Janelle finally moved. She paced slowly toward the center of the lobby, the sharp click of her heels punctuating the silence. "Anyone complicit in today's deception may leave now," she announced, her tone even but impossible to ignore. "Walk out with what dignity you have left, and you forfeit severance and references." A tense pause followed. Then two assistant managers exchanged a glance, removed their badges, and exited without a word. Minute 4. Peter's desperation flared. You can't run a hotel without a staff," he shouted, voice cracking. "You'd be surprised," Janelle replied coolly. "This brand was built on loyalty, not numbers. And loyalty stands right here with me." Several longtime employees stepped closer to Janelle, silently taking her side. The symbolism was unmistakable. Minute 5. The clock's second hand reached the top. The lobby held its breath. Janelle turned to Peter, her eyes steady, a quiet storm of authority. "Time's up," she said. "Peter Graham, you are terminated effective immediately. Surrender your keys and company credentials. You will be escorted out." Her private security team stepped forward, not aggressive, simply certain. Peter's face drained of color. For a heartbeat he looked as though he might argue, but the weight of 100 eyes, the buzz of dozens of recording phones, and the finality in Janelle's tone broke him. He dropped the ring of master keys onto the marble floor with a metallic clatter that echoed like a verdict. Janelle inclined her head slightly. "Thank you for your service," she said, every syllable both courteous and absolute. Peter turned, shoulders slumped, and walked through the revolving doors into the fading afternoon light. The crowd exhaled as if released from a spell. The moment Peter disappeared through the revolving glass doors, the lobby exhaled as though a storm had passed. Conversations bubbled back to life in cautious whispers, and the heavy tension that had hung over the marble floor dissolved into an almost celebratory hum. Janelle Carter remained where she stood, the soft chandelier light framing her like a queen beneath a crown of crystal. She took a slow breath, savoring the quiet triumph. Around her, the scent of polished wood and fresh lilies filled the air, her hotel's signature fragrance, a detail she'd chosen years ago. This was her house, and it once again felt alive with the energy she'd envisioned when she first broke ground on the sapphire crown. A young bellhop, cheeks flushed with excitement, stepped forward. "Ms. Carter, that was incredible," he said, voice trembling. I'm honored to work here." Janelle offered him a warm smile. "Thank you, Marcus. Today wasn't about a showdown. It was about protecting what we built together." Guests gathered closer, their curiosity finally overcoming their hesitation. A woman in a sleek navy dress clapped softly, then louder. Soon others joined in, their applause echoing through the grand lobby. Someone called out, "You showed us what real leadership looks like." Phones recorded every moment, no longer in secret but proudly, eager to share the story of the CEO who refused to be silenced. Janelle raised a hand and the room gradually quieted. "Everyone," she began, her voice carrying the calm strength of a seasoned leader, "this hotel isn't just marble floors and chandeliers. It's built on trust, respect, and the idea that every person here matters. What happened today was a betrayal of those values, but it's also a reminder of why we stand together." The staff listened intently. Some nodded, others wiped away quiet tears of relief. They had watched a colleague attempt to hijack the heart of their workplace, and now they witnessed the unwavering resolve that kept it whole. Janelle continued, "Change is coming. Effective immediately, we'll restructure management with leaders who understand that loyalty and integrity are non-negotiable. If you share that vision, I invite you to stay and help write the next chapter of the Sapphire Crown. If you don't, today is your opportunity to walk away with no judgment." A hush followed. No one moved. Then, one by one, employees stepped forward, not to leave, but to stand a little closer to Janelle. A veteran concierge spoke up, "I'm with you, Ms. Carter. Always have been." The moment swelled with emotion. Even a few guests cheered. A child perched on her father's shoulders whispered loudly, "She's amazing, drawing soft laughter from those nearby. Janelle smiled, her heart warming. She knew rebuilding trust would take work, policies to tighten, training to refresh, but the foundation was still strong. She had faced a public challenge and turned it into proof of her unshakable ownership. That evening, as twilight painted the city skyline in hues of gold and rose, Janelle made one final walk through the lobby. The sapphire blue art glass behind the reception desk shimmered like a living jewel, reflecting her silhouette as if crowning her victory. Staff members greeted her with respectful nods, guests snapped discreet photos of the woman whose courage had already gone viral online. Standing at the center of her empire, Janelle Carter felt more than vindicated, she felt inspired. This wasn't merely about firing a rogue manager. It was about demonstrating, to everyone watching into herself, that leadership means standing firm when challenged, staying calm under fire, and protecting the people and dreams you've built. She paused beneath the chandelier, letting its light cascade over her like a quiet benediction. Then she turned toward the elevators, a small, satisfied smile on her lips. The Sapphire Crown Hotel was hers, always had been, always would be, and tonight, it would shine brighter than ever. And that's how Janelle reclaimed her empire and proved that true leadership means never backing down. If you love this story of courage and power, hit that like button, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more inspiring stories just like this. Your next dose of real-life drama is only a click away.